Hello, everybody. Now, welcome to the sixth session of Current Affairs Special, just before the preliminary examination. And we would be having a last minute revision of the contemporary issues. Already, you have solved a number of questions on current affairs, on biodiversity, PYQs, news rewind, daily current affairs. You have solved questions. So, today we'll be just going through all the important details of current affairs. Let's start. And today it won't be in the form of question answer. It would be in the form of just small description, so that you can just revise all these current affairs for your preliminary examination tomorrow. Let's start. Now the first thing. Now this is a strait which is called as Bab el Mandeb, and this separates Yemen from Eastern Africa. This connects the Red Sea to the Gulf of Aden, and this is also called as the Gate of Grief or the Gate of Tears. And the Houthi rebels, who were supported by Iran, they were responsible for carrying out attack on container ships in this strait. So that's why Bab el Mandeb is famous, and often they ask you questions on international affairs in this manner in your preliminary examination. Sheba Farms is a dispute between Israel and Lebanon. It was under the control of Israel, where we can see that the Hezbollah launched attacks on the Israeli forces. Now, axis of resistance includes what? It includes the Hezbollah, which is based in southern Lebanon, Hamas and Islamic Jihad, which is nothing but Palestinian organization, Houthis, which are Shiite rebels of Yemen, and these are Zaidi revivalist group, Harshad al-Sabi, which can be seen in Iraq and Syria, and Fatemon Brigade. Remember that Fatemon Brigade is an Afghan Shia militia, which functions where? In Syria. So axis of resistance is that. Let's see the next detail. Now, Bekaa Valley is in news, and Bekaa Valley is a very fertile region in eastern Lebanon. It is drained by the Litani and the Orontes rivers, and 90% of wine production of Lebanon comes from Bekaa Valley. And it's a strategic significance because of its proximity to both Israel and Syria. So they can ask you a question on Bekaa Valley, but do remember that the rivers which are responsible for draining is Litani and Orontes. Now, we can also classical language tag was in the news because the classical language tag was extended to Marathi, Pali, Prakrit, Assamese and Bengali. They have been added into the classical language list. Earlier in the list, Tamil, Sanskrit, Telugu, Kannada, Malayalam and Odia was already present. But when we talk about Pali was spoken in Sri Lanka, Thailand, Myanmar, Laos, Cambodia, obviously India, and it was spoken in those countries where the Theravada school of Buddhism was present. As far as Prakrit is concerned, Prakrit is nothing but a language of the masses. It's a group of language, not a single language as such. And the Jain Agamas and the Gatha Sapsapti are in Ardh Magdi, and Ardh Magdi is nothing but a Prakrit dialect. So do remember that Pali, Prakrit, Assamese, Bengali, Marathi have been added into the classical language list. They can ask you a question on this also. Let's see the other question. Now, in news also is a work, and this work was written by Jyotiram Phule, and this work is called as Setkaryacha Asud. And why it is in the news? Because a couplet of this work was erected on a memorial in Nasik, and a controversy erupted. We don't have to go into the controversy for the examination, but do remember that it has been written by Jyotirao Phule. Fluorescent nanotubes are what? It is made up of carbon nanoparticles, and it is used in what? It is used for high resolution imaging, and it's also used for tracking cells and their progeny. Now, they do not blink when they are irradiated for a long time. And this is produced, fluorescent nanodiamonds are produced, remember, at very high temperature and at very high pressure. So just a description of, small description of all these things you have to go through. Just having your dinner, you can go through this video today. Let's see. Now, microRNA is in news, and microRNA is in news. Why? Because a Nobel Prize in the field of medicine was awarded to Victor Ambrose and Gary Rupcom for discovery of microRNA. See, the information which is contained in the DNA gets translated into different types of protein. And do remember that the genetic information which is stored in DNA is copied to microDNA, and microDNA directs the cells to synthesize proteins. Clear? MicroDNA directs the cells to synthesize protein, because the information you have in your DNA, but that gets translated into action with the help of protein. And here you can see the function of microDNA. Now, a question which can be asked is on AlphaFold 2. What is this? This is nothing but AI model. We have done a number of questions on AI, and this is nothing but an AI model, artificial intelligence model, that predicts the structure of millions of proteins. And for this purpose, the Nobel Prize for Chemistry was given to David Baker for computational protein design, and Demis Hassabis and John Jumper for protein structure prediction. But Hassabis and Jumper developed AlphaFold 2, which is nothing but an AI model for predicting the structure of proteins. So do remember that is what is AlphaFold 2. If you get these keywords, you can answer the question if they are asked in your examination. Now, there is a disease which is called as brain-eating amoeba, and this disease is in news because this is also called as primary amoebic meningoencephalitis, and this is considered to be a part of AES. AES stands for acute encephalitis syndrome. A number of diseases are included in AES. And why this disease is in news? Because Kerala, the state of India, has been able to bring down the mortality rate of this disease from 97% to 26%. And Afanan Jasin was the first Indian to survive this disease. First Indian to survive this disease. He is the first Indian and the 11th in the world to survive this disease. Now, also we can see Nihon Hidanko. This organization was conferred the Nobel Prize for Peace in 2024, and this was established when? This was established in the aftermath of Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombing in 1956. And the objective of this organization is what? The objective of this organization is to get rid of nuclear weapons. So the focus is elimination of nuclear weapons from all different parts of the world. It's just a group which represents the survival of Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings, and these survivors are called as Hibakusha. They are called as Hibakusha. So do remember Nihon Hidanko. See, Japan also has a policy which is called as Henkankun-sen. Henkankun-sen is what? The 3 non-nuclear policy. So in the limelight of this also, it can be seen, and they can ask you a question on this also. Let's see the other. Now, Global Hunger Index was in news, and India ranked 1/5 among 127 countries. India's undernourished population is 7th most populous country in the world, and as far as it's ranked 7th most populous country in the world as far as undernourished population is concerned, and India's undernourished population is 14% of the total population of the world. That's a big number. 14% of the total. But ranking is what? 105th among 127 countries. Now, a question can be asked on Artemis mission. Artemis mission is nothing but American Space Agency mission, and this mission is in which Starship is slated to land astronauts on moon. Now we can see that SpaceX, which has been developed by the famous person Elon Musk, goal of developing fully reusable rocket for carrying humans One of the rockets was caught mid-air on its return journey by its launch tower, and that was in the news. So this is nothing but the part of the mission which is called as Artemis mission, and this Artemis mission is of the American mission for sending starships to space, to moons, for landing astronauts on moon. And the event which certainly got more and more attention was what? When the rocket which was captured mid-air by its launch tower. So that was the main attention. Nisar satellite is also in the news. Nisar is nothing but a satellite which would be developed by NASA and ISRO. It's for radar imaging, and the purpose is to develop a high resolution of the Earth's landmass. In this, do remember, the L-band radar would be developed by India and the S-band radar would be developed by US. Already we can see in India we have given a go-ahead for Mission Mosam. There was a Project Mosam also earlier, but this is called as Mission Mosam, under which 60 meteorological radars would be established in India for production of weather, forecasting of weather conditions. But do remember what is Nisar satellites. It's a collaborative effort of NASA and ISRO. Let's move further. Now, VATFOW. Now, this is in news. Why? Prime Minister visited Laos, and in Laos, this is located, which is nothing but a UNESCO World Heritage Site. In the southern Laos, in Champasak province, this is located, and this is a World Heritage Site, UNESCO's World Heritage Site. Prime Minister Mr. Modi visited this country during East Asia Summit. But restoration and conservation of this site would be done with the assistance of India. Do remember that in Laos or in Cambodia, Indonesia, Malaysia even, shadow puppetry on Ramayana can be seen. So it's very famous for shadow puppetry on Ramayana. So VATFOW is in the news. Also in the news, as far as history is concerned, is the 80-pillared wall. We have seen in questions about the Moidams of Assam and had been declared as a UNESCO site. But 80-pillared wall is in Kumbhar, and this is in Patliputra, Bihar. And why this is in the news? Now it belongs to, first of all, let's see the historical perspective. It belongs to the Mauryan period, 321 to 185 BC. Now, first excavation of this hall was done by David Brainerd Spooner. He was an American archaeologist who did this. And in this open air hall, Ashoka called the Third Buddhist Council. Historians say that Ashoka was responsible for calling the Third Buddhist Council in this open air hall. Now, this has been mentioned where? It has been mentioned in the writings of Megasthenes. Megasthenes has written a very famous work which is called as Indica, in which it has been mentioned. And the hall has a wooden roof and a wooden floor. But the pillars are made of sandstone. What happened was, in 2005, the Archaeological Survey of India covered this site with soil. And why? Because the water table was rising. So water table would have damaged this site. Now again the soil is being removed and the site would be unveiled. So this is in news, 80-pillared wall, Kumbhar site in Patliputra, Bihar. And do remember the Third Buddhist Council was conducted there. Let's see. Next. Now green steel is in the news. And let's see what is green. See, first of all, remember a data that India's first green stainless steel hydrogen plant has been established in Hisar. Hisar is in Haryana. This is nothing but a Jindal group plant. And green steel uses what? It uses electric arc furnace fueled with renewable energy and uses ferrous scrap material. Ferrous scrap material means nothing but the waste material. Now these material, main source of this material is what? This is nothing but dismantled automobiles and ships. So they are using the used scrap, the waste products, scrap, and this comes from the automobiles and the ships, dismantled automobiles and the ships to produce steel. And Alang port in Gujarat provides the scrap for steel making in India. Green steel does not use coal-fired furnace. Why? Because coal is a big concern. Coal is responsible for emission on greenhouse gases emission on a large scale. And steel industry is the manufacturing unit which contributes round about 9% in total greenhouse gas emission. So big culprit is the steel industry. And why? Because steel production relies on high carbon coal, and the process of extracting iron from iron ore produces carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide, which are greenhouse gases, and this enhances global warming. So we are using what? We are using electric arc furnace, where we are using renewable energy, and this kind of steel which would be produced would be called as green steel. Already we have done a question on green hydrogen earlier. Now, methamphetamine. Now, methamphetamine is a drug which is in news. Why? Because this drug was initially used for sleep disorder, but it is the main cause of drug abuse death among children. We can see this has been seen, and it not only damages the central nervous system, but it enhances the blood pressure. So do remember methamphetamine, which is also in the news. Why green steel is in the news and methamphetamine is in the news. Now see, as far as the health concerns are there, some questions on health definitely would be asked. Now, SDC, slow digesting carbohydrate. Now, slow digesting carbohydrate is what? It is good for health. First of all, do remember that's good for health when compared to rapid digesting carbohydrate, because it releases glucose slowly and slowly, extended manner. So we have a glycemic response in extended manner. So slow digesting carbohydrates are those which are responsible for gradual release of glucose, and because of that an extended glycemic response can be seen. Glycemic response means what? It is the measure that how food increases in blood sugar level. How food is responsible for increasing the blood sugar level. So glycemic response is dealing with that. HDCs are present in food, but generally they are present in food, but if they are processed, SDC would be reducing and RDC would be enhancing. RDC means rapid digesting carbohydrates, and rapid digesting carbohydrates are responsible for fastly releasing carbohydrates, glucose, fastly releasing glucose, and because of which the blood sugar level would enhance. But source of SDC includes the superfoods like quinoa, chia, legumes, vegetables, apples, berries. All these are superfoods in which it can be seen. Now, in news also is a technology which is called as sexed semen technology. Now, sexed semen technology is used in the dairy industry today, and if this is used, then female calves would be more and more born than male calves. You can see that male calves is considered as a burden, although if you are using this technology, then it can be an ethical issue. Clear? But as far as sex semen technology is concerned, it's used for producing female calf, for boosting milk production. It separates the X and Y chromosomes. You know that X and Y chromosomes would be seen in male, and in female XX chromosomes are present. So it separates the X and Y chromosomes. And now how this is done? This is done by a special dye that colors the chromosome, and this is subjected to UV laser beam, first of all. Then we can see that Y chromosomes would be deactivated. Chromosomes are also passed through electromagnetic field and separated by using variation in surface charges. So that can be done. So this kind of technology is called, what we are doing? We are deactivating the Y chromosomes in sexed semen technology, so that female calves would be born and not male calves as such. Now, Asiatic lions are also in news. Why? See, the main area where Asiatic lion can be seen is the Gar forest of Gujarat, where they roam freely in the wild. But now what we can see that they are crossing this state and coming to coastal areas even. In Diu, Asiatic lion from the Gar forest was seen. And why? Because this area provides invasive plants, dense vegetation due to invasive plants. And which kind of invasive plants? In Diu, invasive plants like Juliflora or Acacia senegal. Now this provides dense vegetation and also prey like nilgai, wild pigs are present. Sorry. Although we can see Asiatic lions are endangered according to IUCN, and Gar is the only place where Asiatic lions can be seen freely roaming in the wild. Now also in the news this year, because from next year it would be imposed, is the cross-border adjustment mechanism. Cross-border adjustment mechanism is to be implemented by Europe, and this would be implemented by Europe as early as January 26. So the purpose is what? To levy taxes on all those items, the production of which is responsible for very high emission, so that these items can be directed to those countries which are called as the carbon leakage countries. Carbon leakage country. So certainly, first of all, the importers of European Union would have to declare what quantity of goods that they have imported and what is the embedded emission in production of these goods. What emission, greenhouse gas emission has taken place. Certainly India would be hit hard, and India would be hit hard because the carbon levies, the carbon taxes would be from 19 to 52%. It would be on cement, iron, steel, aluminium, fertilizer, and these are the things that India exports to EU, and it's nothing but a part of Fit for 55 in 2033 initiative of EU. They have asked you earlier this last year in examination, they have asked you Fit for 55 in 2033. Fit for 55 in 2033 is an initiative of European Union through which they would be reducing 55% of their greenhouse gas emission by 2033. So this is called as cross-border adjustment mechanism. Now, a pact has been signed by the UN General Assembly, which is called as Pact for Future, and this has been signed in September 2024 for global development and governance. Now, the focus is also on multilateralism. Now, this zero draft for this pact was initiated by two countries, Germany and Namibia. There are 56 points in this pact, which includes sustainable development, climate change, peace and security, gender and equality. All these things have been included in the pact for future. But remember these points as such. Also in the news, in the journals, we can see an invasive weed which is called as what? It's called as Kappa ficus, and Kappa ficus is grown in the coastal area of India, damaging the corals. Now this has been cultivated in the coastal areas of India. Why? Because carrageenan is an emulsifying agent which we get from Kappa ficus, this invasive weed. This invasive weed is endemic in Philippines, but we brought it from Japan for cultivation in the coastal areas. So Kappa ficus is that. Next, as far as the 16th COP2 Convention on Biodiversity is concerned, which was conducted at Cali in Colombia, 190 countries agreed to set up a global fund, which is called as the Cali Fund, where companies that benefit from the use of digital information of genetic resources would share their profit with traditional custodians of these resources. So no biopiracy. They would be sharing the profit with traditional custodians of these resources. And although the contribution to this fund is voluntary, now this questions the efficacy of this fund. Clear? If the contribution is Voluntary, this is questioning. Earlier, in 2022 at the COP15, the Kunming Montreal protocol was signed, because COP15 was conducted in two phases. One in Montreal and one is in Kunming, China, because of the COVID. And this was for halting human-induced extinction of threatened species and reducing the rate of extinction of all species by tenfold by 2050, and 23 targets to be achieved by 2030. But certainly know some of the targets. Target 3 is to preserve 30% of planet's land and seas. That's the target 3. There is Article 8G of the CBD, that is Convention on Biodiversity, and this recognizes, all these things can be asked, this recognizes the crucial role of indigenous people in conserving biodiversity. So 8J is that article. A new subsidiary body has been set up at COP16 under Article 8J. Sorry. Also, Target 13, this is sharing of benefits earned from use of genetic resources, which has been mentioned in the Kali Fund. Target 19 is strategy for resource mobilization, and this is 200 billion by the year 2030. Target 18 is redirection of 500 billion per year of subsidies that harms biodiversity. So do remember what is Target 18, Target 19, Target 13, Target 3. All is in Convention on COP to the Convention on Biodiversity, which was the 16th COP was conducted at Cali, and that is in Colombia. So do remember these things. Let's see one more. Now, COP29 UN Climate Summit was conducted at Baku. Baku is in Azerbaijan, and you know that we have done a number of questions on that, on the NCQG, on the 300 billion a year developed country has promised by 2035 to the developing nation to mitigate the impact of global warming and climate change. That's the climate finance we are talking about. The responsibility to meet 1.3 trillion target, because this is the exact amount that is required, has been shifted to all actors instead of developed countries. So not only developed country would be there, but the responsibility to assemble this fund, $1.3 trillion, which is exactly needed to mitigate the impact of global warming and climate change, it has been shifted to all actors and not only. Now, Article 6.2 of the Paris Declaration, we are talking about the Paris Declaration. Now, what it deals with? It involves decentralized systems where two or more countries trade carbon credits. So that's dealing with 6.2, or internationally transferred mitigation outcome. Now, outcomes. Article 6.4, which will set up a global carbon market overseas by the UN supervisory body. So that is nothing but article. And do remember Article 6.8. It provides a centralized platform where countries in need of financial support can submit plan mitigation projects to whom? To the richer nation, to the developed nation. But the questions can be of NCQG 6.2, 6.4, 6.8 article of the Paris Declaration. With this, we come to the end of the sessions for current affairs. Now go through all the questions. I hope that you would have gone through the News Rewind series which we conducted on Symposium IAS, the biodiversity series sessions that we had of PYQs, and also preval questions for preliminary examination, the current affairs series. A lot has been done. So at last, at the end, best of luck to you for your preliminary examination. Thank you. We meet soon.